Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in the ReadyTalk web event series. If you've joined us before, welcome back. If this is your first time on one of our webinars, thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. Today's seminar is entitled 10 Big Changes for Conferences and Events in 2012, and we have Steve Nessich from MarketStrike joining us to share some insight on the changing event landscape. So Steve is a principal at MarketStrike and a senior marketing professional with lots of experience in developing and promoting and managing some of these strategic types of conferences and events for a wide range of companies. He's currently developing both traditional face-to-face conferences, virtual events, and is actively involved with the growing trend of those hybrid events, which is kind of adding that virtual component to a physical event, and something I am assuming that we'll probably learn more about today. So a couple of housekeeping items before we do get started today. During today's presentation, everybody is going to be in a listen-only mode. However, if you do have some questions, please feel free to chat those in at the chat feature that's located at the lower left-hand portion of your screen at any time throughout the event, and we'll be sure to queue those up at the end. And if we can jump in during the middle of the presentation, if it does pertain, we'll see if we can do that as well. So also, if you are on Twitter, today's hashtag is RTWebinar, and there are the Twitter handles for today's speakers. My name is Simone Verhulst, and I'll be moderating today from the ReadyTalk side if you have any questions for me as well. And last little bit of a reminder, today's event is being recorded on Wednesday, January 25th, and you will receive a link to the recording and a PDF of the slide deck later on this afternoon in the post-event email, so keep an eye out for that. So on that note, I'm going to hand it off to Steve to kick off today's presentation.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you all for being here today. My name is Steve Nessich, and I am a principal at MarketStrike.com. I have been involved with events and conferences of all types since way back in the late 1980s when I was hired by Intermet Corporation to help them develop their first users group. In that process, I learned a great deal about meetings, being tasked with organizing not only the group but our first national conference. My company, MarketStrike, which I started in 1993, specializes in event marketing and management, of both traditional or what we're calling today face-to-face or in-person meetings, and virtual meetings, ranging from this webinar that we're all participating in today to all types of webcasts, virtual shows, exhibits, and much more. I am here today to speak about 10 big changes coming for conferences and events. Before I start on the list of the 10 big changes, some key background points I just wanted to make to all of you. The current state of events and conferences is very different from the one we saw exactly 3 years ago at this time. Events and conferences in January 2009, as all of us can remember, I'm certain, all of that had cratered in the fall of 2008 with the general economic climate. Because of the crash of September 2008, all of us saw a vast number of critical events, signature events for a number of organizations and companies, associations, just canceled or cut back severely. It was a climate like I've never seen before. What has happened, we're all happy to say, is that events and meetings of all kinds have come back in 3 short years and in dramatic fashion in many respects. In early 2009, few of us would have projected the events industry to have such a clear comeback so soon. And I believe that this comeback says something about the fundamental value of events to an organization, and it took the absence of an organization's events throughout 2009 for them to be refocused on just how big a value and how great an importance it holds for their organization. When I refer to conferences and events during this presentation, I'm using that term in the very broadest context, really what you might call the 2012 context, because I'm talking about the entire spectrum of events used in today's world, both traditional or physical events, as we're calling them now, and virtual events. And I am also including international, national, regional, local meetings, conventions, conferences, summits, educational symposiums, et cetera, in all types of industries and markets, for corporations, associations, government, nonprofits, and more. I'm intentionally, yes, casting a wide net here because the trends that I'm going to be discussing today, these are going to very likely affect all of us across the board. Any organization that uses events of any type to market, sell, or communicate with a large membership or customer base will benefit by participating in this webinar. So this list of 10 big changes, like any other list, doesn't pretend to be comprehensive because no list can be, but it is comprised of what I see as the most salient and potentially most important changes in the world of meetings, conferences, and events. All of these 10 changes have two things in common. First, they are beginning to generate a good amount of buzz among people who produce and promote events, among the professionals in this field. Probably many of you as well are in that group. But it's more than just the active discussion or the buzz that they're generating. The second and the more important link between all 10 of these is that each of them have the potential of bringing about significant long-term changes in the world of events for both attendees and producers. This list obviously could have been longer or shorter, and it wouldn't be any less valid if it were. And there will always be a difference in perspective on any point at any time for any reason. Reasonable people can reasonably disagree in any realm of discussion, and I'm sure people would have their own opinions about many of these. However, I will say that I worked very hard to be as objective as possible in putting this presentation together. It is the product of a number of hours of discussion and observation and research, relying as I did on a range of sources. But in that process, inevitably, something significant can be overlooked or left out. And so, acknowledging that truth, I would appreciate hearing from any of you who have suggestions for additional items that could have been added to this list or added to a future revised list, or if you have any ideas that might help us get a better understanding of the changes happening with events in 2012 and beyond. My contact information will be made available immediately following this webinar, and I look forward to hearing from you. I invite all of you to contact me as you wish. Today's presentation is going to move very quickly through the upcoming slides. I promise to cover all of this in 30 minutes, and I intend to do so to the best of my ability. The objective of this webinar is not to examine any of these 10 big changes in any close-up fashion, but rather it's just the opposite. It's an overview. It's a snapshot in time, and its objective is to inform accurately but briefly and to spark ideas and exchanges among all of us who have an interest in these areas. Regarding my sources, I relied on the following to help me develop this presentation and the 10 big changes list. The information that you're going to see here is a combination of formal one-on-one interviews with key individuals working in some part of what we call the events industry, as well as informal discussions and observations with a lot of those same individuals and others like them. It's also the product of a number of blogs and articles on both event marketing and event production, but also on those that are focused on related areas such as the economy in general and technological changes. It's also the product of various polls and surveys, both scientific and non-scientific, but all of them providing some glimpse or degree of knowledge and insight on these topics. So those are my sources, and so from all of this buzz, I've developed the list we'll be discussing today. Please also note that the items on the list of the 10 big changes aren't in any order of importance or significance or anything else. The order is essentially random. I could have chosen the order by putting names in a hat, and it wouldn't make a lot of difference insofar as I'm concerned. So, at the end of the formal 30-minute presentation, we'll have a question and answer session. I invite you to submit your questions, and hopefully I'll have time to get to most of them before we conclude. So, number one, social media expansion. It's almost a cliche at this point, and I feel like I'm citing the very obvious, but like all cliches, it has become one for a reason. In 2012, social media as an event promotional vehicle, which is where I'm most interested in it, I would say it's just now coming out of its infancy. It's no longer a newborn, but it's just entering the toddler stage. And what event marketing professionals are discovering is how your attendees or your members or your customers can use social media to actively spread word about your event in the planning and promotion stages. This is going to expand your reach considerably because it adds a personalization element that didn't exist earlier. When a trusted friend or professional associate recommends a certain product or a conference or an event, it has a much higher impact than hearing about it for the first time directly from the event sponsors or producers themselves. It conveys instant credibility if it comes from a friend or a business associate, and it makes it that much more likely that that person is going to register. And it's very similar to being a hiring manager who is looking at a resume that came in via email from a stranger in response to a web posting, as opposed to receiving it directly from someone in your company who said, I can personally vouch for the applicant. Who are you more likely to be interested in that case? Well, a similar thing is going on with using social media as a means of promoting your events to the targeted audience. Second one, direct mail returns as a key promotional vehicle. As we know, those of us who were doing events way back in the pre-web days like myself, the big glossy multi-page brochure used to be the primary vehicle to promote your event. That changed, obviously, with the advent of the web, and I'd say somewhere around the mid double O's, 04, 05, that's when that change became solidified. Most indicators regarding direct mail, though, and its reemergence that I'm seeing, most indicators of that overall direct mail spending in the overall economy, that is going down in 2012. However, it's going to rise in some market segments. One example, especially this year, with 2012 being a presidential election year, and the increasingly sophisticated use of targeted and well-timed direct mail pieces, we're going to see direct mail in that market segment definitely go up. Similar to what political campaigns are doing with direct mail, where they are able to target certain market segments based on demographics and also target the timing of certain pieces. They're finding it's very effective. The meetings industry is beginning to understand that as well. Meetings and conferences are an area where direct mail can have a great impact if it is done in the right way. And what I mean by that is when it's done selectively and effectively for those target audience segments. The direct mail, it is no longer at the center of conference promotion, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, but it's a very important secondary element of the marketing and promotional plan for both virtual events and face-to-face events. If you're not using it now, if you've pushed it aside completely, which a lot of organizations have done, you might want to re-examine that, because those organizations that are using it and using it well are finding good results. It is often, direct mail is, and here's the key, direct mail is often the first or even the only piece that can get through to a key prospect on your targeted attendee list. Because unlike a web link, which is embedded in an email, which is frequently the first way people find out about an event these days, unlike the email, which may or may not be opened, and the web link, which may or may not be clicked through, odds are that you or someone on your team is very likely going to glance at that direct mail piece when it arrives for at least a split second, at least a nanosecond before it goes into the recycling bin. That alone might be enough to generate interest on your part and persuade you or one of your team members to look at it for a few more seconds and then perhaps engage with it. And then it might succeed in getting you to go to the website and proceed from there. That's where it can have a real impact, and some of the research that's been done related to that is revealing that. And if you've been if you observe closely in the past few years, you'll notice the changes that are happening in the design and the wording and the graphics of the direct mail you are getting, just in the sheer size of it. Often it's bigger and it's shaped a little differently. The whole idea is to capture attention for at least a few seconds and to do so in a way that is difficult through any other means. Moving on to the next one. Telemarketing. Telemarketing is maintaining its foothold and its value as a promotional vehicle for events and conferences. Unlike postal mail, which did decline very significantly with the advent of the web, telemarketing never experienced the comparable decline. It was always there, although it was impacted as well. Many organizations did away with all print and mail in the last decade, and some continue to go paper-free. Telemarketing still maintains its hold as the primary outbound marketing tool for event promotion. Even well into this age, where we have voicemail jail and unpublished numbers and the what I think of as the fourth generation of caller ID, telemarketing still continues for a couple of reasons. Reasons of immediacy. It's a way to get hold of somebody ASAP if you need to, and reasons of intimacy and personalization. And we still haven't found another way to replicate that quite as effectively. However, emerging technologies from less intrusive and more advanced voice casting to certain types of software as a service, cloud-based programs that are using integrative telephone switching programming, those types of technologies, they're increasing the productivity of telemarketing professionals, and they're doing so at a significantly lower cost, giving people more bang for the buck. So when you combine these emerging telemarketing technologies that increase productivity with the tried and true elements that work, like a very talented professional caller, you're going to get that much more from telemarketing, and so again, it maintains its foothold, and and I see it continuing to do so well into the future. Going to number 4, hybrid meetings become more familiar than ever. The hybrid meeting, which I personally believe is already an outmoded term, the hybrid meeting is soon due to be the norm for most major conferences and meetings. And briefly, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, hybrid meetings simply refers to those traditional live face-to-face events like a major users group conference or an international association's annual meeting. It refers to those traditional big meetings that are also now showing all or parts of their meeting in the form of a webcast, generally just the educational sessions. And when these virtual elements are combined with the traditional ones, you have a hybrid, which some now think of as the best of all worlds, where you can opt to attend physically in the conventional way, or watch all or a part of the educational sessions on the web from wherever you are. And given the ever lower cost of webcasting, I should say, combined with the technological advances we're seeing on both the transmission end and receiving end, it is difficult to look ahead and not see a future where almost every single event is also going to be viewable on the web. So we're going to see an acceleration of that trend, I believe, in 2012, where hybrids become more mainstreamed, so to speak. The other thing to find out about hybrid meetings, which I think is, again, going to make them that much more appealing and that much more widespread in their use, is people are beginning to understand that it does not threaten your ability to build a live audience. The first response, and I remember this clearly in the 2008, 2009 period, a lot of people reacted with some concern about, well, if people can watch it on the web at little or no cost, why would they want to come to this meeting? Why would they want to take the time and the expense to be here? So it was largely an emotional and anecdotal response. However, the exact opposite has proven itself to be true. It is pretty clear now to anyone who's done some of these, the virtual component acts as a tremendous promotional vehicle for the meeting that is coming up, the same meeting that will be done a year in the future. I remember being at the Virtual Edge Conference in early 2009, and of course they were webcasting all of that in real time, and they had set up a Twitter feed on a big screen adjacent to the main stage where the speakers were. So people watching from all over could also send in their responses via Twitter, and the remarks were very revealing. Right away it got me thinking about this, because the average tweet that was coming in was saying things to the effect of, looks like a great conference, wish I were there, you know, hope to be able to attend next year, makes me jealous that I'm not at this, implicitly acknowledging that there was a difference in watching it from their home or office as opposed to actually being there. I like to make the analogy between the first going back to the first radio broadcast of baseball games in the 1930s, the first response of the baseball team owners was, Why should we do that? No one will want to come to the games anymore. They'll just listen to them on the radio for free. It was exactly the opposite. The radio, the free radio broadcast of baseball games was the greatest promotional vehicle they've ever had. It quadrupled attendance at some parks. It reinforced the identification people have with the team. We're seeing similar things going on here. Number 5, the expansion of the virtual meeting. We're likely to see greater use of video webinars in 2012 as one example of the expansion of the virtual meeting. But I don't think it's going to be the new standard yet, and there's a number of reasons for that. Those are a discussion for another time. But we're going to see more video used in webinars of this nature. But we're still, in my view, at least a couple years off before they become any sort of a standard way. I think voice over PowerPoint, as we're seeing now, has a lot of value, and it's going to continue to be the standard for a while to come. A few years back, again, some were predicting the disappearance of live meetings altogether. That has not happened at all, except internally. There are a number of companies, bigger companies in particular, that are going virtual only for almost all internal company meetings and trainings and other related events. However, when it comes to an external audience, it's rare that people are staying with a policy or trying to develop a policy of going completely virtual. The virtual trade show is going to continue to grow, although at present there seems to be some division of opinion as to how fast and how far the growth of virtual trade shows will occur. The limits of the virtual meeting, it's going to be another big change that we continue to see this year, as we've been seeing in the recent past. And along with the expansion of virtual meetings, we're also finding out about the very real limitations of virtual meetings. The emotional connection, as I like to call it, and other people have called it, there is an emotional connection that occurs with the face-to-face meeting, which of course people took for granted when there wasn't any such thing but a face-to-face meeting. Now that we're seeing the ability to replicate meetings virtually, a lot of us who are looking closely at this are seeing that there's a real emotional component, a real emotional connection that occurs in a face-to-face meeting that appears cannot be replicated on the web. And there are times where a strong emotional connection is absolutely vital. Companies are finding out, especially when customers and prospects and business partners are involved. Something does go on in the human condition when people are meeting face-to-face that is different on the web. And this is an area that I'm particularly interested in. I am right now working on a white paper that is based on research that's been done in a number of different fields that talks about this, and that will be a white paper I'm issuing in the weeks to come, along with a new webinar. And so if anyone is interested, please let me know, and I'll be sure to inform you. But as to when that's going to occur. But some data is emerging on all of this, and it's very interesting what we're finding. But the bottom line is virtual meetings can't replicate the entire human experience of meeting face-to-face, and some of the things we're learning are fascinating, and they have definite implications for how one wants to conduct business effectively. Meetings technology enters the next stage. This is another big change. Another big change that we are seeing, and the first thing that is probably obvious to all of us is mobility is growing as a communications vehicle, and the ability to transmit information about events, about the promotion and marketing of events on mobile devices, and to do that effectively is going to make a big difference. Also, using mobile devices to transmit virtual components of meetings. People who can do that well are going to have a tremendous advantage, but it's getting easier and less expensive to do that well. So we're going to see more of that. In general, the technology that is developed for meetings, those capabilities are growing. Its functionality is increasingly more user-friendly and more intuitive and more sophisticated, has more capabilities. We're also seeing a movement towards convergence with other types of technology. A lot of the technology developed for meetings and other types of events is beginning to converge with other types of technologies that organizations are using for their vital mission-critical company data. Online registration systems, looking at those alone for a moment, they've taken a giant leap forward. And I would go so far as to say online registration systems are now absolutely mainstream. The major companies that produce those programs continue to perform well, and the competition between them still appears very healthy. There are still a number of good players, and they're all offering very good products. I know at Market Strike we had a in-house system that one of our developers built for us in the late 90s, and we continued to use that well into about 2006, 2007. We then decided it was less expensive and actually a lot easier to go with one of the packages that we could access online, and we've been doing that ever since with very good results. So we're now also, the other thing that's happening with meetings technology, we're beginning to see a lot of event features or event components within other products used by a range of companies for marketing functions, particularly beginning to see this within popular email programs and CRMs and customer relationship management programs. The event function is becoming more advanced, and they're promoting it in a rather aggressive way to those individuals that they know work for companies that produce a lot of events or have that as a major job function. And we're seeing a convergence on the corporate level as well. Probably the most significant example is the recent purchase of Starsight by Active Network. That really underscores this trend, and I'm anxious to see how that moves forward and how it affects both of those companies now that they've merged, and how it affects the industry as a whole. I'm hopeful it's going to be a positive thing, and I think it will be. Would like to now pose a question to all of you out of curiosity. I'm assuming that most of you, if you are in the event production business or some aspect of it, or if you're simply someone who's attended events over the years, what kind of online registration system are you using? Actually, this question is more for people who are responsible for producing and developing meetings. Do you have a system that is developed in-house as we at MarketStrike were using some years back? Or are you using a web accessed program, something that you get online that has all that functionality? Or are you not using an online system, and or do you actually not know for sure? So I'll give you guys a minute to participate in that, and I'll be interested in seeing what type of responses we get. So, okay. All right. Well, responses are still coming in, but overwhelmingly, almost 3 out of 4 are using a web access program, and that's about what I would have expected. So, so thank you for participating and giving us some further insight to all of that. Number 8, event data and enterprise systems continue to merge. Those of you who are responsible for events, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. The data that once stood alone, having to do with meeting budgets and marketing budgets related to that meeting, increasingly that's being integrated into the mission-critical systems for the company you might work for. I see this as a good thing because it presents a great opportunity for marketing and events professionals who are responsible for meetings to demonstrate ROI in a more seamless and clear fashion. It potentially increases our credibility and the work that we're doing on behalf of clients or on behalf of the executive management within our company. But and it makes it easier, I have found, to go back and get numbers and get data when you need it for whatever purpose. But we're going to see more and more of that as these systems become more integrated. And then number 9, new destinations challenge the well-established. Yes, I've been talking for the last few slides about technology as related to meetings, but one of the interesting things about working in conferences and events is a lot of us know is the variety of functions and the different number of areas that you have to have some savvy and some experience in. Moving to destinations, I'm intrigued by the new destinations that are coming up on the scene that are challenging the more well-established ones. In Europe, the big 3, of course, London, Paris, and Rome, great places to bring groups. The trade-off, as most of us know, is the expense is rather high. If you're going to bring a group to Paris, and I brought several there, it's going to be expensive. Therefore, it makes perfect sense that a number of other players are emerging on the scene, and some of them are moving aggressively to let people know that they are available for these types of conferences as well. Lisbon, Portugal, I want to cite in particular. I am hearing more and more about their efforts to attract people who are bringing meetings to the EU and to basically raise their flag and say, hey, we're here too. We're also Europe. We have history. We have culture. We have a beautiful city. And they've spent a great deal of money in the last decade or so to build a gorgeous conference center and a large number of hotels that can accommodate people who are coming to Lisbon for a conference. I was there recently in October, taking a look at a number of the properties there. I was quite impressed. My prediction is we're going to hear a lot more about Lisbon and Portugal in general as a key destination for groups in Europe for reasons of economy, yes, but not entirely. So the new destinations also include Colombia in South America. Colombia has, in very assertive fashion, taken the bull by the horns, and they're fearlessly and directly confronting some negative and long-running stereotypes. But it's a beautiful country. I think we're going to see it more and more featured as a popular destination. In Asia, Vietnam continues to boom, both in the general economy and as a destination for groups, and we're going to see that continue. Finally, number 10, the comeback of the physical meeting, the local-based physical meeting. Quite simply, this combines two trends. One is the heightened recognition that the face-to-face meeting has benefits for both producer and attendee that we're beginning to understand implicitly, and as I said, some of the scientific research is revealing that as well. Even if we can't quite articulate it or directly express it, we all know that face-to-face is different from virtual. However, this trend also so we're going to see more and more people attempting to meet physically, but of course it costs more money, and so people are moving locally. This trend simultaneously acknowledges what we know about meeting face-to-face, but also acknowledges the continuing state of tight budgets. Meetings have come back, but budgets are still tight, and budgets for travel and event attendance are still really tight on the part of the attendee. So instead of the big centralized national meetings, say in Chicago or New York or San Francisco, we're going to see more of the local physical meeting at the airport hotel or the downtown hotel, and people are recognizing that there are great benefits to that as well. So, concluding and wrapping up, a quick word about Market Strike. We've been in this since 1993 as a separate company, 19 years of event marketing and strategic promotions, 19 years of innovative solutions for conference management. We were early adapters to web-based meetings and meetings technology, and we feel we have an expertise in both the traditional meeting and the virtual meeting in all of its forms. If you'd like to follow up, get more information, consider us a resource. Even if it's informal, even if you would just like to pick my brain, find out a bit more about some of the things that I've discussed today with you, and there is my contact information, and if you can't write it down right now, it won't be too hard to find me through our friends here at ReadyTalk. So that brings me to the end of my formal presentation, and I look forward to getting to as many of your questions as I can. Simone, do you take the lead at this point?
Yeah, we have quite a few questions actually came in, a number of people that gave registration questions when they initially signed up for the webinar, and a few that have come in during the course of the webinar. So if any of these kind of spark your brain on a question that you might have, again, feel free to chat them over, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. We'll go up to probably the hour here. Again, if you have to drop off, the event is being recorded, so you'll get a copy of the recording later on the post-event email. But as far as some of the questions that have come in, Ellen asks, what do you think of kind of continuing the experience of a live face-to-face event but following it up with a virtual event? with like unique content. So maybe following up with a webinar or something like that.
Yeah, I think that that is a great tactic, and I don't mean to sound too crude in just calling it a tactic. It's a very good way to continue the engagement. Very often when people go to a traditional meeting and they get a lot of value from it, they make a lot of good connections. One of the problems in the past, before the advent of the web, was it was relatively hard to stay connected with those people and to remind them of the value that was offered while they were at that actual conference. Today, because there are a number of virtual resources, like this webinar, for instance, but online videos that can be accessed 24/7, and a wide range of other materials, there's an opportunity for anyone who attends to continue to gain information and gain value. It's a very, very good idea to combine those two in a well thought out program. So,
great. So another question here. Do you think that social media or the internet marketing side of things will eventually replace the traditional media tactic or the phone marketing approach?
Anything's possible. People are obsessed with this, particularly in terms of people who are 30 and younger. There's a school of thought that says, well, anybody under 30 is beginning to realize that there's no reason for them to ever answer a phone or answer a communication that they didn't initiate. They're only going to engage with things they're interested in at their choosing. I'm not sure if I accept that completely. That's a bit too much of a stereotype, first off, and it's a bit far-fetched in terms of how people really engage with technology. I don't see the disappearance of all of these traditional outbound marketing vehicles yet, if ever, although they'll continue to change, but I don't see a wholesale replacement, at least not in our lifetime. So.
Great. So hopefully that answers that question. A few more that came in, again, during the registration when signing up for the event. Maybe hoping just to gather a little bit more information on how you can get the best use of your time at conferences and events while marketing maybe a business-to-business type of service. So any suggestions on maybe how to best utilize your time while you're at a live event?
Well, in general, good question. In general, my answer would be engage, engage, engage. Very often people make the mistake of going to one of these events, and particularly if it's a multiple-day event, there's a lot going on. I mean, it can be, as we all know, it can be physically exhausting just to sit through hours and hours of presentation. However, you're really missing something if you don't get an opportunity to be in that room and really engage with those presentations as fully as possible, despite the fact that it can wear you out a little bit by the end of the day. But generally, coffee is plentiful at these things, so that shouldn't be a problem. But it's not just the educational sessions I would encourage people to engage with. Take full advantage of every one of the features within whatever conference you're attending. Talk to people during those coffee breaks. Don't just stick with the people you came with. Don't play it safe. Seek people out. The great thing about face-to-face conferences is it's often the only opportunity you're ever going to get to speak directly to some people. So, go to those social functions and do more than consume the food and beverage there. Use it as an opportunity to talk to people. I mean, hey, there's a reason that we wear name badges that have large print on them. You don't even have to ask someone's name. If you're literate, it'll be right there. So really put yourself into it, and remember that the social functions are as important as the educational functions. Also, if you're at an educational session, fully engage. Don't spend your entire time looking at your mobile device. Don't spend half your time outside the room making a phone call. Engage with whatever it is at that moment, and you'll get more out of it. At least that's my bias, and that would be my suggestion.
Definitely some very good insight there as far as keeping engaged and hopefully taking advantage of time at a live event. A couple more questions here. So what is the best, let's see here. We've got so many coming in. I'm trying to sort through them all. I'm sorry for this. How do you overcome the lack of excitement and maybe connection that you feel with that virtual audience versus being with a live audience? How would you say to kind of keep that engagement piece when you're not interacting with people face-to-face?
Good question. I mean, what that question directly points out is one of the limitations, as I was referring to earlier. That is one of the limitations of virtual meetings. As good as the technology is getting for transmitting the live sessions, and it's significantly better at much lower cost than it was even 2 or 3 years ago, you're not there. And you don't have, and generally you're not watching it in a room full of people, so you can, speak among them to have your own comparable experience. If you make the analogy to a sporting event, I mean, I pose the question to people, well, what would you rather do? Would you rather be at the ball game and pay $10 for a beer and wait in line 15 minutes to use the bathroom and have to, jostle with a lot of crowds and so forth and pay $85 for the privilege? Or would you rather be at home on your couch where there are no lines for the bathroom and beers are a lot cheaper? And the answer is, it depends. There are trade-offs to both, and we all know this. There are times where nothing beats actually being there. But one of the things you do lose, as this question makes clear, when you're watching, when you're viewing it over the web, is generally you're doing it in isolation. I mean, the other analogy I'll make to sports is, Super Bowl's coming up here soon, right? Relatively few people who watch the Super Bowl watch it entirely by themselves. Very few people watch it all by themselves in isolation. You go to Super Bowl parties, at a minimum you have friends and family members around you, and you interact with each other around what's happening in the game. Perhaps that's something we will see more. Perhaps some companies will become aware that there could be benefits to having your group sit down and watch certain educational sessions together for the conference that you couldn't attend this year. And then you have each other's experience to discuss afterwards and reflect on, and it becomes more like being at the actual event, just as, it's more enjoyable to watch that football game when you've got 8 people in the room as opposed to when you're all by yourself. At least I think it is. So.
Great. Thank you for that answer. And we're kind of running up on the end of the time here, so I want to be respectful of anybody that took time out today to listen to the webinar. And again, if we didn't get to your question, all the chat questions will be sent over to Steve later, and he has a chance to follow up with you directly. So on that note, I am going to go ahead and just mention the post-event survey that will pop up after I close out this meeting. We'd love to get your feedback both on the ReadyTalk side and obviously for Steve as well. What did you learn? What didn't you learn that you wish you had? And what other maybe topics are of interest for you to get back on the webinar series? So also, if you have any questions about ReadyTalk, we've obviously been talking a lot about virtual and webinar events. Obviously, ReadyTalk is an audio and web conferencing platform. We'd love to help you out in that area as well. So if you have any questions for us directly, we're happy to reach out to you. You can just type yes into the chat feature, or go ahead and visit our website, just www.readytalk.com. You can visit our free trial page as well. We'd love to extend our services to you. So again, I will close out the meeting. Thank you guys for joining us today. Have an awesome afternoon. Leave us your feedback, and we hope to see you again on another event in the series. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone.